I was just thinking, like, it's kind of like, let's say you go to school and, like, at least once a week somebody beats the shit out of you. Like, you love school, but you know you're going to get your ass kicked
That's a
every
great
so.
analogy.
Mm.
Yes.
So
It's hard to get excited for getting punched in the face. I would prefer this not to
Yeah,
happen. Um,
Dan,
that's the
that has
quote
to
of the
be
episode. It's hard to get excited about being punched in the face.
lion
I'll
roaring.
press the button so we're starting whether we like it or not. So, and I don't know how much editing I'll do. So hello everybody. Welcome to Post-Exertional Mayonnaise, a podcast about what is it about? I don't know. About living with ME and chronic illness, creativity, and making meaning. It's in there somewhere. So yeah, hello and welcome. And we're going to talk about trying to manage fluctuations today on the podcast, and we've got some contributions from some listeners just to read out, and we're just going to have a chat. But shall we start with Bring a Thing? If we've planned anything, I was just trying to think of something earlier. So Litsa, do you want to start?
yeah, just so everyone knows, all three of us are pretty worn down this week, so we're a little punchy and just rolling with it. For my first would be James Baldwin's Giovanni's Room. And yeah, there's nothing I'm going to say about Baldwin that you haven't already heard, but it is as good as you'd hope. And he wrote it in 1956, so decades ahead of everything. To be openly gay on top of everything else, and just to be one of the best writers of the 20th century. So that's been really invigorating. Hacks, one of my favorite shows, season 4 debuted last night. That's the one with Jean Smart and Hannah Einbinder. I think I'm pronouncing her name correctly. But the first 2 episodes went online last night on Max, so I'm really excited. And so far, season 4 is really good. I've been writing a lot, so I don't have that much to offer. But my good news is I've had 3 short stories accepted in the last 2.5 weeks.
Yay,
And I'd had
congratulations! And I meant to make a note of that, and I was going to say so. Sorry.
congratulated me online. Thank you.
Mazel
I'd had a
tov.
I'd had a really awful streak of rejection the last year, and then all of a sudden 3 got accepted. So that feels good. But in order to write that much, kind of everything else, I haven't been able to engage in that much else with the rest of the world. But it's been good. It's been as creatively fulfilling as it can be. So back to you guys.
It's wonderful.
Dove, what's your thing?
Bring a thing. Well, it's hard because there's a few things, but I will start by saying that I finally got from the library, which I haven't started yet, but I'm really excited. You recommended, Litsa, you recommended the graphic novel version of oh, the novel that everybody's reading because of we're all gonna die.
Miracle of the Store, Octavia
Yes,
Butler.
thank you.
Oh God, yes. Okay.
So I'm really excited to read that. I got it on the library digital reader. It took it's taken several, I think, a few months. So I'm looking forward to that. So that's bringing a thing that I haven't yet read, but that I'm excited to read. And then Dan, like on the on Signal Chat, we've been sharing a lot of music, and that's been really fun. Just sharing music with friends and listening to songs I haven't heard of before, and then re-listening to. I got back into Hope Tala. I listened to that. So Hope Tala is a musician who I love, and I think I've talked about her before because she does, or she was doing for a while. Right now, she's about to go on tour with her first vinyl album. She's very excited, and she's this queer young British musician who's I just think she's very talented, but she's also really fucking cool. And she does this she was doing for a long time this book club that anybody could come to. It was pairing together a book and an album and then having a book club discussion. So, and then the third thing that so Hope Tala, she has this song called All My Girls Like to Fight, which was the first song I listened to, but Dan picked out a song that he really liked, and I loved that. And I've been starting to listen to her new album. It's on SoundCloud. You can listen to it. And then The third thing is just before I got ME, I was really into foraging and I loved it. And now that we're like about to hit the end times, I've been thinking a lot about foraging. And so I've been watching some videos, and then a video popped up just the other day, which was about this very uh, common wildflower in this area, and I think across the US, called spring beauty. There are several different kinds, but if the roots of them are just like potatoes, and you can eat them kind of like potatoes. And I'm really, even though I can't, it kind of brings up the frustration of that, like I can't go out and forage them and plant them in the yard. If I want them, I kind of have to buy them, which I shouldn't have to do, but that's, ME tax, disability tax. But it's really exciting whenever I learn of a new sort of common plant that that we can all eat in the end times. That's just
I think
grows.
that's a valuable skill to have right now.
Yeah, I don't think I don't think
skill.
I don't think I ever knew that about you, Dove. So it's like I'm sure that's a new bit of information for me. So I love that.
Yeah, I was
I
kind
love
of obsessed. That I started. I'll just very quickly say that when I moved to Brooklyn, I grew up in Pennsylvania, in Allentown, Pennsylvania. I went to college in Princeton. After that, I moved to the Bay Area and lived there for 11 years. And then I moved to Brooklyn. And this new friend that I just met when I first moved there really wanted to go to a foraging workshop tour of like local New York parks, and just kind of convinced me to go with her. And then I never stopped. And that was in probably like 2006-ish.
Wow.
And so I was really into that until I got ME in, I guess, 2014. So,
That's brilliant.
Dan?
That is really cool.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about foraging. I'm sure somebody said there was some magic mushrooms on our farm somewhere. But it's probably just as well I can't walk down there.
Yeah, I've never done mushrooms. It's not that mushrooms are more dangerous than other plants. Like all plants have the potential to, be very toxic if you don't know what you're doing. But
Yeah.
I've just never felt confident about mushrooms in the way that I have with other plants.
No, and you don't know you don't know like whether you're gonna get high or kill yourself, do you? So it's a bit risky, isn't it?
The lack of margin of error.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh dear. Might I bring a thing? Are you aware of the term chicken jockey?
No.
My son is a massive Minecraft, or he grew up playing Minecraft, and so he was incredibly excited to go and watch the Minecraft movie this last week.
Oh, you saw the Minecraft movie?
So I didn't see it, but I'm making it my goal to watch it just for because he really enjoyed it. But yeah, there's on the trailer there was a bit where Jack Black is playing Steve, who's the guy in Minecraft, and he's in a boxing ring, and there's this chicken, and he's like, oh, he's gonna fight a chicken for whatever reason, and then down from the ceiling comes a chicken jockey, and it's like a little zombie kind of thing, and but there's this trend that when people go to the cinema, they're all waiting for the chicken jockey part of the film, and then once the chicken jockey drops down, and then he says chicken jockey, everybody just goes wild in the cinema. So yeah, I'd definitely go and people are filming filming the audience in the cinema just going wild when this chicken jockey thing happens. So I just thought it was just a lovely sort of expression of joy, really, isn't it? And just stupidity.
Collective expression of joy right now. Yeah.
Yeah. So go and look on YouTube or whatever, and you can see videos of people just going wild for a scene in a film, and it happened when my son went to see it. We're not really used to expressions much within cinemas in the UK, Yeah, it was. They all went crazy. So yeah, I will make it my goal to try and watch that film. And then an album I've been listening to is a band from Australia called Middle Kids, and their album Faith Crisis Part One. So yeah, I've really enjoyed that recently. And that's
Hey, I
that.
should thank you here because I thanked you in our Signal thread, but thank you for Streamers. That was such a great recommendation. It's Jack Antonoff's band and so good. So good. You had
Oh
suggested
yes,
that last
Bleachers.
time.
Sorry, Bleachers.
Bleachers, God, where am I? Guys, yeah. Thank you for decoding.
I was just like, when you said Jack Antonov, and then I
No,
couldn't
that was
remember Antonov
good.
in our last episode, and
Okay.
then I was like,
Bleachers,
and
thank
then
you.
and
Really,
then it's
really good. Thank you.
yeah,
That was your recommendation.
it's a
Thank
lovely
you very
album.
much.
Yeah, it's good. Um, yeah. Shall we move on to this topic of
Yeah,
fluctuations?
I'm gonna lie down so I can restore whatever
Feel free.
cognition I have left. Okay, how's this good? This'll do. This'll do. We're all family. Let's go. Here we go.
I'm always lying down, but it's like just the level of where the pillows are on any given day.
Let me see.
Actually, should
There, I think this is, yeah. Okay.
So 2/3 is the lying down, and the other one, if you're just listening, that's me. I've got my head on my hand. So yeah, I've got my head on my hand. So to fluctuations, yeah, we were going to talk about fluctuations, and you wrote some bits and some points, Dove, that we can sort of chat through as
do you
well.
want to start by reading? Did you want to like first introduce the topic, or should we just read the responses first, or
If you'd like to introduce it, or I could read some things from our listeners.
why don't I introduce it and you guys jump in when I inevitably fail to do a good job.
Oh,
You can tell how well planned we are.
The problem is like it's very hard. Okay, so I kind of have this thing where I no longer have really, I have a very hard time like making visual images at all in my brain since I've had ME, and it makes my memory very strange. And so like I never feel like I know anything or can remember anything, but sometimes stuff does come out of my mouth as if I can see the image, or so it's there somewhere, but my head always just feels like very blank inside. I don't know if you guys.
Because you're always really articulate.
Yeah, I thank you. I don't feel it, and I always feel sort of like this big empty space, which is it's not a comfort to feel that emptiness. But in any case, so we wanted to kind of talk about the challenges for people with ME of what it's like to live with an illness where you can't sort of predict anything. You can't predict crashes. You have to deal with ups and downs, and both can be equally stressful and sometimes traumatizing. And we work so hard to prepare for things that we have to do, but those it's not as if, what was it like, it's always an inexact science, like trying to prepare, for example, for appointments or outings or a podcast. Like you never know sort of how much you need to rest, or if it's going to work, or what's going to happen on the other side of something, even if you do rest up. So we were going to try to hash that out a bit and just talk about the struggle of managing those fluctuations. And
Yeah, I'll just read some of the some bits. I realised that I didn't really sort of think it through very well, because what I did is I took screenshots from Facebook of people's comments and then put them into a Google Doc, not realizing that you can't click on see more see more to read the rest of it, because it's not there because it's a screenshot. So I'll have to apologize to those people that I didn't necessarily capture all of your comment. But Krista says you just have to surrender. We're talking about managing our fluctuations. My baseline goes up and down when I let myself rest to the point of not being dizzy. It goes up a little. Sorry, I mean, you're not even reading it right today. And being able to move without pain and not feeling lightheaded. It feels decadent and heretical, but the needle moves upwards. It's a long game that means being the abhorrent one. Rest is the deepest sin, yet rest is what allows healing. And I tell people that rest is an investment in your future. Lucy says, I'm a planner. I deal with things by anticipating scenarios. I've had people tell me that I overthink and it's unhealthy, but I struggle much more if I'm caught blindsided by things. How I deal with my ME is very reliant on planning and contingencies. So I plan buffer periods on either end of activities to account for necessary rest. And I try to manage my own expectations of how my body is going to be. Chantal said, not very well. I have a tendency to overdo it when I'm feeling better, as my body never tells me when I'm doing too much, so I'm constantly crashing. Fiona says, we've got two more. Fiona says, I know that I only have small pockets of energy. I have to make sure that I do not extend over my time limit. I usually do 10 minutes, then take a break, 10 minutes, lie down. And I know I only have around 2 hours of movement per day. If I go over this, I will experience a crash. I have to sit perfectly still most of the time or lie down. It's frustrating, but it is what it is. And then Sue says meditation, deep breathing, reading books and poetry, Buddhism, speaking to people who understand art. So yeah, there's a load of stuff we could
Great
pick
answers.
out. Yeah,
Those are really insightful.
Yeah,
really.
would love just to say, like, we'd always love to hear from people who are listening to the podcast. We always love to hear your thoughts on the topics that we're discussing.
Yeah,
And-
thank you everyone so much for your
Yeah.
feedback in any
Yes.
context. Those were fantastic answers.
Yeah.
And we really appreciate the time that sort of and the energy that people have used to write those things. So it's great. So thank you.
Yeah, that made me think, like, why don't we start with the emotional cost of both ups and downs? I think that would be a really interesting place to start. And I'll just say that I have a lot of fear about long crashes. I feel very grateful that, like, on a daily basis, I'm able to putter around and do some cooking, and occasionally, I did a little, I've been trying to do a little gardening, and I really have to space it out, and it's, it's hard. Like, it takes a lot of recovery, but it also, like, brings me so much joy, and it's like having to balance sort of the fear of causing a long crash and doing something that brings me pleasure. And then I have, I think a lot of people think that the pandemic is over, but I also, the 2 times that I've gotten flus while I've had ME, it's taken me 6 months to recover. And, so I have a lot of fear of catching things from people, but it's hard the way we have to be vigilant to try to care for ourselves. I don't get the kinds of getting better where I don't have the ups that some people have, and I know that those are incredibly emotionally fraught. But I do get crashes, and I live in a lot of fear of a worsening baseline, and but I also, like, try to do things that help me enjoy time, and so it's always kind of a struggle. And then, of course, the choosing the things that I'm going to use the little bit of spoons I have to do, having to make those terrible choices, the choice of, like, how am I going to spend my spoons?
And not that you need the validation from me or from anyone, but those are rational fears to have when you're as immunocompromised as all of us are. Getting an additional infectious agent in your body, yeah, it's catastrophic. So it's hard. You just want to be as normal as you can. But you
And I think
you don't want to lose 6 months because someone sneezed on you.
Right.
So that's a totally rational approach. I'm glad you can garden, because that's just to be outdoors, and that's good.
Yeah, it's not a lot, and I pay for it, but I also I'm also, trying to plan for the end times, and I'm trying to eat blueberries during the end times right now.
it's like hard to know. Like it's hard to sort of like, yeah. sort of get it, sort of make sense of it sometimes, isn't it? Because you have to laugh, but then yeah, it's not great, is it? But yeah, it's I think you in your notes, Dove, you sort of said that it's a messy concept, isn't it, of a baseline, and even that, it's like knowing where you're on a baseline, or is there a baseline, or we, I see some level of fluctuation, and it's, I think, when things are just a tiny bit better, it's that word is like that you used was fear, and it is, and it is, and like you said, Litsa, it's quite a rational fear, isn't it? Because it's very real, and and I think many often we can sort of feel, um, you know, people would say, well, you can't live in fear, and it's like, well, no, but and you've got to try not to be sort of spend all your time in that place, in your
Oh yeah,
mind
none of
space,
us
if we're talking about
obsess
emotions
about
and
that
stuff.
stuff.
Um, but it is very real, isn't it? And I find when I'm doing a little bit better, that's when I feel most fearful, because I'm like, I don't want to go back to that place again. Like when, and I know that it may well happen at any point, and it is like walking a tightrope, just being a little bit better than you usually are, and then having to kind of like face a crash, then not knowing whether actually it's your baseline that's dropped, or whether it is just a short crash period, and you might be able to get back. So that
Right.
it's just like, it's so hard, isn't it?
Yeah, the unknowns is the uncertainty.
Until 2012, I had remissions. I've had ME since 91. And until 2012, there would be remissive times where I'd have a few weeks or even a few months where I always felt like I had ME, but the symptoms were much more manageable. And I could drive and I could travel sometimes. And, I'd feel like I was going to die by the time I landed in New York, because I'm in Seattle. I'm on the other end of the country, but I could do it. I could sleep for a day and then get my ass out of bed and go walk around New York. And again, having to pause a lot. Everyone with ME knows, even at your best times, you're still having to stop. But I
Mm.
could go to a restaurant, and like, you feel like the cage door is open. And
That's a
going
brilliant.
going to Dan's point, it's gonna close again. And that's its own fuck up, because you're just happy. Like, oh, this isn't as
Yeah,
bad. I can see
yeah.
friends, and then, but it's gonna end. And so you enjoy it as much as you can. You try and stay in the moment, but it does fuck you up, because you're gonna get dragged down and you're going to pay for it.
But you shouldn't think like that, Lisa. You shouldn't think it's going to end. It might be all right. You've got to think positively. I'm sorry. I'm being
It's kind
facetious.
of like
For those who don't know, he's being facetious. Yeah.
yeah, Dan is being
Yeah.
I'm,
sarcastic
so,
here.
I'm sorry if I created any
Nobody
trauma.
has to be positive at all. In fact, we welcome your range of emotions. I was just thinking, like, it's kind of like, let's say you go to school and like at least once a week somebody beats the shit out of you. Like, you love school, but you know you're going to get your ass kicked
That's a
every
great
so.
analogy.
Mm.
Yes.
So
It's hard to get excited for getting punched in the face. I would prefer this not to
Yeah,
happen.
Dan,
that's the
that has
quote
to
of the
be
episode. It's hard to get excited about being punched in the face. Sorry.
No, it's because I love those responses from Facebook. Again, everyone, thank you. They were so insightful. We all try and plan to the degree that we can. And one of the things that will drive me crazy is, despite the fact I've explained to everyone in my life, I'm going to have, if we're doing something on Sunday, I have to plan that whole week to stay, just to not do anything else before I see you on Sunday. And then I'm not going to be able to do anything else for like 4 or 5 days after. And again, August will make 34 years since I've had ME. And I don't know how to explain this any other way than I've explained it. And I understand if someone else has a big life thing come up. I mean, their lives are still going on and people have to change plans. But when it's the kind of thing, oh God, I forgot it's Sunday. It's like, oh, okay. That's 2 whole weeks of my month that I now have to reroute because you can't write things down or just put them on your phone. That kind of stuff never ceases to annoy me.
Yeah, I have a friend we haven't like discussed it, but it seems that like she doesn't either like to make plans or she has maybe a hard time with plans. So she's always like, just call me sometime. And I'm always like, I need to make a plan. And then she's like,
Right.
just call me whenever. And I'm like, I need to make a plan. So we keep going back and forth and we end up just not talking for years.
But you know that when the time comes, you would probably that it would be a positive experience, I guess. Yeah.
You know what I take great joy in is now that FaceTime allows us, because I'm 58, the internet came along when I was a full-on adult. FaceTime allows us to communicate with friends. Let's say, one of my best friends, Tony, we've been really close since we were 14. We FaceTimed on Tuesday. And we'd planned, he's great. He understands all of it. He's been supportive the whole 34 years. But he lives in a different city. We could just hang out. We'd planned it, and it just felt so good because I'm lucky I still talk on the phone with a lot of friends, but sometimes you want to see their faces too. And in order to write this much, I've done something that is not recommended. I did not plan this. I have not been able to see anyone in person for 5 weeks now.
Wow.
And yeah, it's not good for you. It's not good for you. And thank God I've got the dog who's sleeping next to me. But it wasn't some big thing like, oh, I'll just take a month and a half off from interacting with humans. But I have a lull right now with no doctor appointments and no lab work. And my cardiologist still wanted me to get another blood draw. And I just said, no, I need a break. This is not exigent. My potassium levels will deal with it. Just everyone leave me alone. Stop taking blood. And it's been better mentally, just not interacting with the mental health profession. I mean, guys, I can barely talk today. Not interacting with the medical profession has been beneficial for my mental health. Just not seeing doctors and not seeing phlebotomists. And it's allowing me to write, but it also means I don't get to see anyone else. And so there's always trade-offs. We've all talked about that. In order to do anything, you lose something else really huge.
Yeah. Yes. This is reminding me of when the pandemic first started and people were like having such a hard time with the isolation. And, for us, for me, it was just like another Tuesday,
Yes.
and
Yeah. I think for me, weirdly looking back, like I don't really people have got like really vivid memories of doing all this stuff, or things you had to do during lockdowns and all this sort of stuff, and it just felt like it just passed me by because very little changed for me at that time because I was mostly housebound anyway. So it was
Right.
at that point I wasn't able to kind of get out at all, really. I don't think, and so it felt weird because it was hard to get hold of stuff, like, which was annoying, or like sort of not being able to get home deliveries that you usually normally get every week, and then suddenly you can't get them, and it's so frustrating when you've
It's
used.
disruptive, but
Yeah.
all of us know what it's like to be alone inside. And so most people I know with ME or any other major illness, I think we navigated lockdown far better than our healthy loved ones. And I'm not trying to just beat up on our healthy loved ones because they weren't used to it. If you're not used to it, it's really traumatizing. What I wish more people had said, and I talked about this a lot online at the time, when everyone was saying how overwhelmed they were and how isolated they were, I saw almost no one able-bodied then making the leap. Oh my God, tens of millions of disabled people live like this all the fucking time. And that drove me nuts. It's like, okay, keep going. once you've processed, we're like on month 3 of this and how horrifying it is. Now try and remember there are people we're living like this
Right.
until there's a treatment or a cure. We're living like this our entire lives.
Right. And then all of a sudden things started to become available online that
Yeah.
weren't available online. And then of course a lot of stuff stopped being available online as soon as people decided the pandemic was over. And yeah, it's really
When the world reopened, we got left behind, and that's a whole other. But with fluctuations, I think one of the things that gets overlooked, and again, this is ME and for any illness, is something in life is always going to go wrong. So you can plan to the degree that we can to try and stave off the worst of our symptoms. But people get sick, people go through divorces, people die. Um, my mom, she's elderly, she's going to be needing more surgeries. Life is going to keep happening and good things too. Like I said, people are getting married or people have a book launch or whatever. And for us to participate as much as we can, it the bottom's going to fall out. And it's just, please know if you've only had ME or long COVID a short amount of time, try and plan your time to the best degree that you can. But please know it is not your fault when you crash. That you can plan meticulously and you can still end up in a full-blown crash and it's not your fault.
yeah, and I think for us it's really easy to be hard on ourselves both. I think when you start to feel better, and again, I'm not somebody who has like I have been, other than having like prolonged crashes, my baseline has been very similar for the 11 years that I've had ME. I can putter around. I can do a bit of visiting, but I can't. I haven't been to a restaurant or a cafe in 11 years. I don't think I've been to a bookstore in around 11. I don't. Going places is so taxing between the sensory stuff and the exertion and so mainly I go to only to appointments, and then I try to do like a photography outing once or twice a year if I can, and somewhere very close, but luckily I can do things like I do portraits of friends a couple times a year, and that's wonderful, and I love it. And also I pay for it, and I think like it's very easy to kind of get become despairing when inevitably our we have a lowering baseline or a crash, or we really wanted to do something but we find that we can't, or we have to leave early. Like I think it's so easy to blame ourselves, to fall into despair, and it's not your fault. B, it's okay to feel the emotional pain, because it's really hard. Like you don't have to find silver linings. You don't have to do the forced positivity stuff. Like it's fucking hard. The question is like, how do we self-soothe, and how do we support each other, and how do we manage the best we can? Because it is really
Right.
hard. And it's hard to like wonder, when you start to feel a bit better, are you going to stay there? Are you going to crash? And I think like that can be one of the hardest things, when you think you're taking a new med or something, you think something's working, and then the bottom drops out. That can be so devastating. And that is a thing I haven't had to deal with, but friends have. And then I think for me there is a weird comfort to sort of the way that my health is doesn't in huge ways go up or down, but it's also it means that I don't get to
I really
go out and
feel
do things.
I really feel for you. That's particularly hard what you're describing.
I mean, in a way, it's how do you say, what's the word? There's a consistency that I think saves me some emotional kinds of pain, but probably brings other kinds of.
Yeah, it's like no win, isn't it? Like you start to feel a tiny bit better, and you don't want to lose the what you've got, and then if you're constantly at the bottom, which I'm sure we've all been at different points, and like I was just thinking recently about a time that I was literally like crawling to the toilet, like and I'm sure probably an awful lot of people listening to this have been there or are there even,
Right.
like, and it is just soul destroying.
It's
So when you
so hard to describe if you have not experienced it. It sounds apocryphal. Like, what do you mean you had to crawl to the toilet? And for the, again, millions of us who live this way, yeah, there are times you literally can't get to the bathroom unless you're crawling.
and others that can't even crawl, and that's the sad state of it, isn't it? That we just
Yeah, and I think one thing that is true about all three of us is that we all have the capacity to do a podcast, which a lot of people with ME are much sicker than we are, and and then there are people who are less severe, and it is a continuum, and I think yeah, we have to keep sort of acknowledging that there are people who are incapacitated to the point where it's very hard to sort of create a quality of life between the pain and the
and
incapacity.
and that's the difficulty when you've been there. It like sometimes I think like we can forget how bad it is, but then other times it's almost like for me I have to remind myself just like how horrific it is, and I described it this week as like a type of hell, really.
It is.
Or I put something on
It is.
Facebook, and it's yeah, it's just shocking. So when you do have a level of improvement, and you've been in that very severe, well, I wouldn't say I've been in a very severe state, but in that severe state, it is just it's emotionally just wrecks you, the whole experience. So the knowledge of going back there is sometimes worse than when you're in it. Almost like, because when you're in it, you just become. I mean, it's probably wrong of me to say that as well, because it is terrible when you're in it as well. But it's coming
It's
out
like,
of it and not wanting to go back.
I was just going to have it do another analogy that probably won't be as good as the punch in the face, but it's like when you have a job that you fucking hate and you get to go on vacation and you have to go back
Yeah.
to that job,
Yeah.
and it's hard to enjoy the vacation. You know what I mean? It's almost, for some
It
people,
is.
they'd rather not go on vacation and deal with those ups and the emotional. Yeah.
We should emphasize again, it speaks to the severity of this illness that we are among the lucky ones,
Yeah.
and that our hearts go out to everyone with severe ME, the people who can no longer speak, who can no longer process sound. Just listening to this podcast might be too much. The people who can't have light of any kind or have touch of any kind. It is hell. It is hell. And one of the real difficulties, we're recording this on April 11th, as things unravel further in the United States. Columbia University was at the forefront. Their ME Research Center was at the forefront of ME research. Well, thanks to you know who, it's now shuttered. And here we'd finally had this huge breakthrough at the end of 2023 with our National Institutes of Health releasing that groundbreaking study, irrefutably stating that ME is physiological in origin and that it's multisystemic. It's a post-infectious illness attacking the central nervous system, the immune system, but it's multisystemic. There's no system left unscathed. Well, all that did was corroborate what Stanford, Harvard, Yale, Oxford, what 20 years of prior research had said. one of the researchers at Mount Sinai, he'd even said that, thank you, NIH, for saying what we all knew. But it made it irrefutable for once and for all. The NIH is saying, here is what's going on. And then in the fall, two of our really prominent congresswomen here in the US had introduced the long COVID moonshot bill into Congress, and it specifically included myalgic encephalomyelitis. It was really promising. And then, of course, in the States, the Democrats don't have the House or the Senate, and we know who's in the White House. So all of this is dead. We had these huge, phenomenal research breakthroughs, and then all the funding is gone. There's still going to be a little bit of ME funding because not all of it was dependent on the federal government, obviously. But because the slashes this time are just eating into every university we've got here, no one's going to get out of this unscathed. And so that's the other thing where I'm having to really focus on just taking this day by day, because otherwise being this ill with the unending bad news, and to be clear, not just, and I'm putting just in quotes, not just bad news on the public health front. We're looking at bad news across the board in the United States right now. But knowing that we were on the cusp of moving forward with ME and long COVID research, and that's getting snatched from us, it's just we're a pretty hardy patient population. If you're listening to this, congratulate yourself for just being able to do. You got out of bed, or you didn't get out of bed today, but you're trying. You're trying, and this is a patient population that has endured so much abuse and neglect. And then just when we finally had research proving what all of us have been saying for 4+ decades, and then to have this snatched away from us, it's a lot. It's a lot. And so I find the little joys with my dog. I'm lucky I can still read. Most days I can listen to music. But I've kind of given up the idea that there's going to be, if there's a treatment or a cure, I think it's unlikely my body will benefit from it. I think there's likely just too much cellular damage. And I want to be wrong on that. I super duper hope I'm wrong. But after almost 34 years of this going on unchecked in my body, even if there is a solution, will I be able to benefit from it?
And then you said something that made me think of how we have become. We're a hardy population, or however you said that. Like, we are a population of people who have really worked, many of us, on our skills or our capacities to take pleasure in small joys.
Yes. Well said. Yes, we do. We have to. But I think as a group, we're good at it.
Yeah. And yeah, it's really scary right now. I think it's pretty terrifying right now. And again, like, in order to kind of keep ourselves from going into terrible crashes, one of the things that we have to manage is our nervous system. And so, like, getting super upset and getting adrenaline rushes is going to, at least for me, it can make me so sick to have so it's like, that's another thing, is like, we're going through hell. We don't know if we're going to be able to keep our benefits. We don't know if our loved ones are going to be able to keep their jobs. We don't know if loved ones are going to be carted away to basically concentration camps. Like, we have so much to deal with. And in order to not sort of have our health get worse, we have to find ways of like, trying to stay emotionally, however you say that, like, even keeled or steady. I know those aren't the best words. And that's another bit of fuckery with this illness, is that it's one of the hardest illnesses to tolerate. It gives you it sort of takes away all of your tools for managing stress, but it piles stress on. And in order to try to navigate our baseline and make it as best as it can be. Like, we have to, like, some people can't even like, for some people crying makes them very sick, like the adrenaline, all that stuff. So
it
Hmm.
well, and we try and stay as informed as possible. And going to your point, that uses a lot of energy. And on the other hand, it's never been more important to be informed. I really want to stress this. I'm not an alarmist, but if you're listening overseas, if you're not in the States, which I think most of our audience is in Europe, don't come here. It's not safe.
yeah,
It is
it's not.
not safe right now. We're looking at full-on abductions. I live in an apartment building. 3 of my neighbors on my floor are from a group that's being targeted. Just, I'm going to be vague for their safety. They're really scared that ICE is just going to show up. And to be clear, they're all here legally. So we've been coming up with plans. And I've given everyone my contact information, just saying, I don't know what I can do, but if anyone shows up, I'm going to get in the way as much as I can. But if you've got any kind of conscience or soul right now in the US, we're all having to make a lot of plans and figuring out, everyone wants to help us. I'm being generous. Everyone listening to this wants to help as much as possible. While we ourselves are a member of a targeted group, as we see with HHS, everything that's happening with Robert Kennedy Jr. Overseeing Health and Human Services here in the States, he's trying to get rid of vaccination, for Christ's sake. So it's just. Are you okay, Daniel?
Yeah, I've not had one of these doing a podcast before. It's just my tremors.
Oh, honey, I'm sorry.
It's all right. It's just yeah, like my head just starts going like that
Oh
sometimes.
God.
It's just what
Do you
it
need
is.
to take a break? Should we pause?
Just carry on.
Okay.
Stop now. Sorry.
No, and I am very sorry that happens. No, I can't emphasize this enough. It is not safe to travel to the United States right now. And I don't take any joy in saying that. There's no pleasure in saying this, but if you're listening overseas, if you've got a vacation planned, it's unraveling really quickly over here. And I
I forget.
Oh, go on.
Oh, there was I, my brain, I forget a country has said that it will um, take in trans refugees. And it was so, brought up a lot of feelings to see, like, I'm so grateful that that is true. I don't know that I don't know at this point, between ME and between, like, having to renew my passport as a trans person, like, I don't know that I could escape, but it was, I think that's, yeah, we have somebody in health and, well, I don't want to stress people out, but yeah, RFK Jr. is definitely trying to us, and
That's not an exaggeration. That's
yeah.
not.
But yeah, also
yeah.
I think that there are a lot of safer places to be right now, and especially for people with ME. And we should probably start to try to wrap this up, just because I know we're all feeling rough. But especially for people with ME, you don't want to risk being dragged into rooms where they're going to hold you for long periods of time. Like, I've heard real horror stories. Yeah, I mean, we're all vulnerable, and anybody, I think when authoritarianism comes to a country, the only kind of quote safety people feel is this idea that it's not going to, it's going to affect someone else. It's going to affect someone else. But this is a situation where there's, the only people who aren't affected at all are basically going to be your billionaires, your hundreds of millionaires, and maybe, I other than that, like, and even those communities of people might have loved ones, if they do have loved ones, because I think most billionaires might not do love. uh,
Hmm.
pardon my French, but I'm not sure that's in their wheelhouse. Sorry, I'm going to try to plug this in if I can figure out how. Um, yeah, every like none of the, everybody needs to do what they can to support each. We need to all be supporting
Our
each other to the
interpersonal
best of our
connections are
ability.
really
Hmm.
helpful. Yeah.
Hmm.
If
Hmm.
Um,
you have enough strength to still interact with any loved one you trust, that's just net good. Just our interpersonal connections right now have never been more important.
yeah,
Hmm.
and you know, and I think the small ways we can bring each other connection and comfort and joy, like even in a world such as this, or especially in a world such as this, like that matters. Like those the small joys. It's like we sort of small joys are kind of what we thrive on
Hmm.
as a community to some degree. I think
Hmm.
it's maybe fair to say, and so hopefully we can continue um to find that together and in our personal
Yeah,
lives. Yeah. A lot of great on. There's a blue
a
sky
lot.
community
Yeah.
growing. There's the comments sections here, and there's other people with like is it Diane Cowan has a big comment section where a lot of
Hmm.
people are
Oh, okay.
interacting, and I wanted to kind of bring her up because I haven't looked at her social media in a little bit, but she had a
That's
situation where
physics girl.
yeah, physics girl. So she
Okay.
has long COVID slash maybe ME, and she's been very, very, very sick. And then she had some improvement. And there, you know, it's always interesting to watch this on social media. She has some improvement, and everyone's like, "Yay, you're getting better! Yay, we knew you could do it!" And then, of
Hmm.
course, her health goes in a, you know, she starts
Again,
to
it's not a question of discipline. Again, if you're one of the people who's newly ill, it's you're not failing. This is not something you failed when you got worse again.
Hmm.
right, but when you see, you know, when you're that much of a public figure, people want so much to
Right.
have this
Right.
narrative where you're getting better, and then she started to get worse again. I don't like the better worse, but
Hmm.
that's the best I can do with language right now. And then you know people, there are a lot of people in those, even though it can be hard to kind of be in that discussion, there's also a lot of people with ME in those discussions, and you know, there's a lot of places to find connection. Please feel free to have community time in the comments here. We do. How do you say? We do monitor the discussion for any kind of hate speech or,
Hmm.
you know,
Definitely.
people being not kind, we welcome anybody who wants to kind of connect with each other in the comments. Please do.
Yeah,
Um,
even if you feel alone, and I think most of us do pretty often, someone still cares about you. And even if that person is someone you vaguely know online, we want you guys to be as healthy and as sane as possible. So we're sending love and empathy too.
And if all else fails, and you're into the sort of humour that Jack Black brings, go and Google chicken jockey and
yeah, go and Google. What is it called?
chicken jockey, or just
Yeah,
yeah, like
Chicken
chicken
Jockey.
jockey videos, or
We'll
yeah,
check that out.
cinema
I'm really
theatre
excited
videos.
about
Yeah,
Chicken Jockey.
yeah, I'll
Um,
post it. Um, yeah, so it's been good. It's been good to talk, and we could just talk for ages. And I realised that as we were talking, that what I usually look at on our screen is a little timer, and they've taken the timer away, and I can't see it. So I've been having to
oh, I
sort of
can see
vague.
the timer. We've
Have you?
been on for 53 minutes
Oh,
and
really?
22 seconds.
Where's my timer? That's not fair. What's happened?
I got your timer.
You got my timer. I don't know whether it's usually there. It's just not there. So anyway,
That's because they gave it to me.
you got it somehow.
It's mine
I
now.
didn't want it anyway. Anyway, well, yeah. So, yeah. Next time we don't know what we're doing, but thank you so much for listening. We appreciate
Yeah,
you
thanks.
all.
Thanks for
So
listening, and yeah, hang in there as best you can, and 1 minute at a time.
Yeah.
That's kind of how I
Yeah.
that's how I try to get through anyways. It's just
Yeah.
and maybe someday something will grow in the garden. I'm not a good gardener, but things do still grow sometimes.
Good. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.